When I come over here to China to race, I notice how aggressive it is. There's a lot of movement in the bunch, a lot of guys sort of chopping and changing.
Yeah, it was pretty hard from the gun.
It was a good course for him, but I remember sort of calling out for Kirgy. I was like, "He's still with us?" And I just heard nothing. So I sort of knew at that point he either dropped the wheel heavily or he's crashed heavily.
The UCI Tour of Binzhou is a two-day UCI 2.2 race in Shandong province in northeastern China. Riders from 32 countries come to compete from the UCI Asia Tour in search of UCI points and, of course, prize money. For many of the foreign riders, it's their first time racing in China, and the nuances of racing here can take some getting used to. Day one starts in the afternoon, giving the riders and mechanics time to prep their bikes. Being a flyaway race, many of the foreign teams are short-staffed and doing double duties as sporting directors, soigneurs, and team mechanics.
I'm Izzy Flynn, I'm from Tassie, Australia, and I'm here working for Team St George for our China and Japan block. But back home I'm an athlete riding for Team Bridgelane. But having a third person is always helpful, but for these 2 days we've only got two of us, so it's just picking up the slack and getting the boys to kind of chip in a little bit just for these 2 days, but then when we head on we've got some more staff. I think I'd always prefer to be a rider, but it's been really nice to be part of racing when I've got no other option at the moment. Obviously I'm not able to ride, so still being able to be at these events is really nice. Yeah, first time in China, but yeah, it's nice to see other parts of the world. Obviously I do a lot of travelling and it's just nice to see another culture and a different way of life.
When talking to the foreign teams, there is one recurring theme.
Their racing seems more aggressive.
When I come over here to China to race, I notice how aggressive it is. There seems to be a lot more crashes over here than what we'd get back home. There's a lot of strong teams here. They all try and take control and it can be quite hectic at times.
Most of the local professional riders got their start racing the local amateur scene in China. The amateur scene in China offers big prize money, often more than the professional races. With such large amounts of money on the line, the style of racing gets very aggressive, especially on flat stages. The last few kilometers are usually very risky with lots of crashes. However, this environment offers a unique opportunity for new young riders to gain a lot of experience. The Nusantara race team are one such team from Indonesia that use the Chinese races to develop their young riders.
I like the competition for the China, and then yeah, it's different than competition in our country, of course. Yeah, I think it can be develop our team to for the good result for the riders, I think.
But when all is said and done, the teams are all here to race. Decent UCI points are on the line and there's no clear favourite.
Good afternoon and welcome along everybody. Today is stage 1 of the 2023 third tour of Binzhou International Cycling Race.
Day 1 is a 113 kilometer crit style race with 10 laps around a circuit. I was watching from the feed zone and the action looked fast and furious.
Early on it was quite fast, over 50k an hour, a lot of attacks going.
The final average speed is over 47 kilometers per hour. St George have their hopes on a bunch sprint, with Nick Kyrgyzov, aka King Kyrgy, their best hope. Kyrgy is a Kiwi track cyclist who's been having success on the road, recently having a win and a couple of podiums at the Tour of Poyang Lake.
So my name's Aiden Buttigieg. I'm from Australia, but I've got a dual citizen as a Maltese as well, so that's me. Obviously the break that went, it was a substantial split. So I knew that we have to obviously have someone in that to be representing St George. So I was towards the front, managed to jump across to some TSG riders. So yeah, it was good to make sure that we had someone in the split. I just sort of rolled turns and sort of kept it moving along a little bit, but we always knew at the end of the day that we had our main sprinter here, who's obviously King Kyrgy. the man himself. So we wanted to make sure that, you know, eventually the break it was going to get caught inevitably on such a fast and flat course. So it was good to be up there in it. But yeah, there was no real stress being caught and swamped. Well, I went back as soon as I got caught and sort of went to collect Kyrgyz. And then sort of as we were moving back up towards the front of the race, on the left-hand side, there was a big island. And then there was a rider who swung off past me and then down my left between myself and the gutter. And I sort of remember going, oof, there's not much space there. And I just heard him go back. And then about 2 seconds later, I just heard all the things you don't want to hear as a cyclist. And then I remember, I didn't look back, but I remember sort of calling out for Kyrgyz. I was like, he's still with us? And I just heard nothing. So I sort of knew at that point he either dropped the wheel heavily or he's crashed heavily. And obviously he's come down, which isn't ideal. So we lost him in the end of the race, but he did really good to sort of get through to that point. And I'm sure if he was in the sprint the sprint finish, he would have been really close up to the front end of that. So it was a good course for him, but not our day today.
With Nick down hard, the team's hopes for a victory are gone. German rider Lukas Carstensen takes the victory with a bunch sprint, narrowly beating out 2 riders from the Chinese national team. One of the local favorite teams, Team SCOM, are left disappointed. Usually hot favorites on flat stages, their superstar sprinter gets boxed in and crosses the line in 9th. There's nothing for the teams to do but go back and reassess their options for the second day.
Today is stage 2 of 2023, the third tour of Binzhou International Road Cycling Race in the Yellow River Scenic Zone.
Dawn breaks on day 2 and the weather is not good. With over 220 kilometers for today's parkour, nobody's happy to see the rain. It's wet, it's cold, and it's windy. I jumped in the team car of Team Ferei Mongolia to watch the race unfold. Yesterday's crashes and today's weather has everyone on edge. The kilometers roll on, and the riders are looking exhausted as they come back to the car for feeding. At the 150 kilometer mark, riders start to break. Nearly 4 hours of being pounded by the wet, cold wind has taken its toll. However, not everyone is setting up. St George have a rider in the 4-man breakaway for most of the day, but with no climbs before the end of the race, likely it's going to be brought back. St George's sprinter, Kyrgyz, has been riding through the pain of yesterday's crash for over 200 kilometers. There have been a few crashes today, but his team have worked hard to keep him safe. Meanwhile, Team SCOM have been working to bring back the breakaway. Louis Carlo Chia is looking to redeem yesterday's poor result. The final 4 kilometers are almost identical to day 1. Everyone wants to move up to the front of the bunch, but with over 200 kilometers in the legs, moving up is painful and slow. Finally, in the bunch sprint, everyone is sprinting into a headwind. Team SCOM's Chia narrowly beats Carstensen with a bike throw, redeeming himself from yesterday. Meanwhile, King Kyrgyz, despite his injury, manages to take 3rd place with a well-earned podium. Racing at the continental level is a true labor of love. The money, fame, and glory of the World Tour are stripped away, and all you're left with is the traveling, the suffering, the long days in the saddle, and the constant danger that comes with road cycling. In road cycling, there are no timeouts. There's no half-time. Rain or shine, you're out there working for your team. After over 200 kilometers, as you're going into the last few corners, you're just left rolling the dice. Will your sprinter get caught in a crash? Will you get boxed in? After all the strategy and all the riding, it often just comes down to chance.
I really like this word. Race is not fight, not war, just chance. Chance? If you win, chance.